The other big reporting piece is Power BI. So just to take a quick look, so you'll see that Power BI, if we look in here, I can actually have a Power BI report visible directly in Business Central. So in this particular scenario, I am looking at a Power BI report that I have set up to do some of the analyses on those statistical accounts using the dimensions and so forth, right? So I can see this directly in here, but I may actually want to get to that Power BI report to perhaps look at it in a larger view using Expand, or maybe I want to set some, do some filtering on it, that kind of thing. I can do that here then through this manage mode, and this is going to show me then that Power BI report and all the available tabs that I have within here, right? So I can come and look at this report, what I have set up, and then I can do some slicing and dicing within this as well, or make some changes that I want to. I can also do some filtering and things if I go to that expand. This is going to be based on any report that I've got created here in Power BI. Within Power BI, again, as I mentioned, it's extremely easy to connect to your data sources. So to do that, you can go to recent sources if you've already been connecting to something in Business Central, or alternatively, you could go to Get Data, and I'm going to go to More, and from here, I am going to go to my online services, and I'm going to grab my Business Central. And this is going to pull up, then it's going to connect to my Business Central, and it's going to pull up those various environments that I have access to. And then from here, I can just connect to anything that I've got set up in this specific area. So you've got a couple of different options with advanced APIs, standard V2O, web services, legacy is what I'm using here. And so I've got all this stuff available to connect to. So if you do happen to see things, I've already connected my statistical data, a lot of the other stuff, dimensions. I could add dimension set entries if I want to here. It's going to show me a preview of what data I'm looking at. If I wanted to do some transformation from directly in here, I would be able to do that, or I can just go ahead and load that data set. So now I have access to that data set from within this particular area. And right now it's connecting and it's updating all of those other tables as well as I go through this. So again, it's as easy as that to connect this data. I could also, if I had, say, data from another source, maybe I've got something else and I'm saving that into a spreadsheet, but I want to be able to connect that. Maybe I've got some specific volunteer information that's created through another database or another environment. I can also then say, hey, get data. Maybe that's in Excel. I can look for an Excel workbook and then add that to this specific data set, right? So if I had store receipts that I wanted to add to this or something else, I can add those payroll data, things like that, and then just pull that into this same environment. So if I wanted to do my food, although that might be a very big data set. And then the other thing to point out here is what you're doing is you're creating that data model where basically once I've come out here and I've said, okay, now I'm looking at my food data set, what do I want to add to this? But what you're doing is within that data model, you're just letting the system know, how do I connect these different pieces of these tables, right? So when you run into something where it's not identifying a key, basically you just need to make sure that, hey, if I've got something like my dimension and I want to link this table with this one over here, what I want to do is say, okay, so this dimension code here is linked to this dimension code here, right? So I'm just letting it know that those are two things that need to actually be linked together. There are other ways to do that. It will actually come up if it doesn't, if you attempt to have data sources from different systems or even with the same system, that they're not automatically linked in here. It's going to let you know that. And so another thing it might do is actually ask you how you want to connect it. So that's something that you can see as well. And you would basically have a little screen come up that's going to say, yep, how are we connecting these two? So that's just a little piece about how you're doing some of that setup within here. Of course, I can see the underlying table. You have obviously in in Power BI, for those that haven't created these reports, you do have full flexibility in how you see things on the screen, right? So you can see I'm seeing my posting date up here, but here I'm just seeing the months, right? And so that comes down to the difference between something like using this in the posting date, using the date hierarchy versus, and so date hierarchy where I'm looking at just that month versus over here where I'm just using that posting date. I can also change the names of these columns as well. So if I'm in here and I say, hey, I've got posting date sitting there, I can either rename this over here, that will appear in any place, it will update that name, or I might just over here say, nope, just for this specific visual, I just want to say, what is the date posted, right? So I can change the name of that. So there's a lot that you can do specifically within Power BI to make these look the way that you want them to look. And then also I can change, what am I looking at here in terms of my my specific chart that I'm using. I can also click on an area in one chart and have it then, these are all working together here, have it then for all of those other pieces, those are going to be linked together and it's going to show me those entries for each of those that are applicable. So in my housing, these are the 3 entries. It's showing this is under the rental assistance, and then this was my total for June was 75. So it's showing me that information in this area. I just like to point out that, this is a great way to be able to create those dashboards within Business Central or within Power BI. And then again, I can share these out both in Business Central, so that in Business Central, as I mentioned, I'm able to pull up anything that I have access to. And so if I were to go back to this and look at the Power BI report area, I have it showing that specific set. So I'm looking at yes, and again, some of the things I can do in Power BI to go through this, or look at my different months, if I'm filtering by month, that kind of thing. I can do all of that right here if I want to. Or I can, again, go out to expand or manage. In terms of selecting reports that are available, I can actually select, like I said, from any of those Power BI reports that I have in my workspace, in my Power BI workspace, and that's not my desktop workspace. That's my Power BI workspace in the cloud, or any other things that may have been shared with me. So I'm able to come out and select any of these reports that I have out there and then view those directly here within Business Central. And again, I can get to those reports. If I wanted to go look at this one, I can expand this report from there as well. So you're able to get to all of that information. And again, my forecast versus booked and data or visuals that I have set up in the table. So that is using that Power BI piece. And again, I can also look at those within my Teams channels. I can have a Teams channel that is set up specifically for my Business Central. I may have certain things that I'm looking at specifically over in Teams. And again, I would be able to then, within that channel, I can look at things like either my Business Central in that Teams channel, or I can look at reports that I might have set up.